Hello, this is James Bond Cole here, and I'm going to go and rank the 10 Star Wars movies from worst to best. For when it comes right, so for number 10, it's The Last Jedi. Now, when it comes to Last Jedi, it is nothing but an absolute mess. I don't understand why people like it. It's nothing but an absolute mess. I hate what they did to Luke Skywalker. They treated him like he was a complete idiot. Just to make Rey look good, according to Kathleen Kennedy. They also made Poe Dameron look like a complete idiot just to make this Admiral Amilyn Holdo character to look good because she was a woman, according to Kathleen Kennedy. The movie was an absolute mess. I hate what they did with Luke. This movie made me hate Rey even more. It was just an absolute terrible movie. The writing in this movie was absolute dreadful, and I have no idea how people like this movie. And it deserves to be at number 10 because there's nothing positive I can get out of this movie because it's absolute mess, and it deserves to be number 10. Number 9 is the Force Awakens. Now, The Force Awakens is a very entertaining movie, but really still it was just nothing but a copy of A New Hope. You have a character that was on a desert planet that just randomly bumps into a droid that has this fancy information in the story. You have a Death Star all over again, like they did in A New Hope, because all it is a remake of A New Hope. You have a scene where there's a guy with a helmet on that acts all intimidating. Yeah, they copied that from A New Hope too. They also reset Han Solo completely different, like, because when it came to they completely reset everything that happened in the original trilogy with him, because in the original trilogy he went from a smuggler to a badass rebel general, and he went back to being a selfish smuggler, and also, like, you know, they just completely ruined everything. The scenes were absolute rubbish. You have a character called Rey who's an absolute Mary Sue. She's perfect than everyone else. Like I was saying in the previous like I was saying in The Last Jedi, but you know, she was just an absolute Mary Sue, but I thought her powers would have been explained in The Last Jedi, and they completely didn't do that at all in The Last Jedi. But yeah, back to The Force Awakens, she was able to fly a ship without being in a ship before. She was able to defeat a villain just by closing her eyes, and if The Force Awakens was really well written properly, things wouldn't be this way. And I think The Force Awakens, if it was made by someone who knew what he was doing, then see Han, Luke and Leia, they would have been together all on screen for the next time, like ever since Return of the Jedi, but we never got that. And you know, I thought we were gonna get something new after The Force Awakens, but did we get that? No. This movie is an absolute mess, and it feels like it feels more like a reboot to the series rather than a sequel to Return of the Jedi, because really everything, it feels like the whole journey that they had in the original trilogy doesn't matter anymore. Because the Empire, basically, what the First Order is just the Empire all over again. It feels like they're just back in control, so it feels that everything they fought for and fought for and lost for and everything, you know, didn't matter anymore, you know? And it really, really annoyed me with this movie. And I can't deny, I totally agree with people, it's nothing but a copy of A New Hope. And some of the characters, like Captain Phasma, is absolute useless. I have no idea how people like her. And Finn as well. You know, I just don't know why people like the new Star Wars characters. They absolutely suck. In the sequel trilogy, there's nothing to look forward to. And it's all because of this movie. People say it was The Last Jedi that screwed up Star Wars. Nah, it was The Force Awakens. And that's why I rank it at number 9. Number 8 is the Solo: A Star Wars Story movie, which actually I think was absolute unnecessary. The Alden Ehrenreich actor maybe tried to do his best, but he was absolute terrible as impersonating Harrison Ford. And they made him an absolute goddamn Gary Stu. They made him perfect in everything, just like the Mary Sue Rey from The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. Basically, they just gave us things that we never asked for. He done an absolute terrible job, and it's just so funny how they were able to do six when it came to James Bond, they were able to get 6 actors to play one person, and they succeeded pretty well. But when it came to the Han Solo movie, they couldn't even have one person play Han Solo properly like the other did. They couldn't even do that. The movie was absolutely terrible. They did not actually answer the questions that we asked for, which was like, how did Boba Fett have rivalry with Han Solo? Why did he hate him so much? How did Han Solo get in debt with Jabba the Hutt in the first place? Stuff like that. They didn't explain that at all in that movie, and it just made absolute no sense. Lando as well was an absolute joke. He was flirting with his own droid. That's, imagine Padme in the Clone Wars trying to flirt with C-3PO, going, how's it going, you handsome gold plating thing? And then C-3PO going, how's it, alright, you beautiful. Do you know how stupid that would look? Because it really would. The movie was an absolute joke. I have no idea how people like this movie. And do you know what? It deserved to lose money. It was an absolute disaster. And I kind of knew everything was going to go downhill. And do you know what? If this is a Star Wars movie you need to skip, there's no problem with that. There's nothing to lose about not watching that movie. This movie was absolute crap. Absolute useless. The characters were absolute useless. It was supposed to go and show about the criminal underworld with the Hutts, but they didn't even show about the Hutts at all. It made absolute no sense at all. He had no motivation at all except to be a pilot, which makes absolute no sense. And yeah, it was just a terrible story, terribly directed, and I still think it would have been a mess, even if it was made by the directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, because I think it still would have been a mess, still. But yeah, it's a complete mess. I have no idea how people like this movie. It deserves to be number 8. And do you know what? I'd say all the Disney Star Wars movies deserve to be downhill. They deserve it. Fine. Now, number 7 is Attack of the Clones. Now, I can agree that the dialogue was pretty bad and all that, but I think the actors did a pretty good job. Now, I agree, there was too much CGI and stuff like that, but the action was fantastic. I can understand with Hayden Christensen's acting in that movie, but I think he done a far better job in Revenge of the Sith. I think the movie was an alright movie, but there's just too much plot holes and stuff like that. But it was good how they explained certain things, like how with the first round of stormtroopers, like with the clone troopers, it was interesting with stuff. Now, I agree that the dialogue was pretty bad, and Anakin did act kind of like an idiot when he lost his mum. But yeah, I'd do the same thing if I lost my mum. But yeah, I could understand where Anakin was coming from and stuff like that in that movie. Really, there is some good bits out of this movie, but yeah, I can't deny there was some CGI. I just don't know, there was a lot of CGI in that thing. I just don't understand why people hated Attack of the Clones so much. Anakin maybe acted a bit too bad, and the romance, yeah, it just wasn't that. Well, I wasn't keen on I'm not keen on romance itself, but they needed the romance to happen, or Anakin, Luke and Leia would never have actually existed in the original trilogy, so they had to they had to fall in love, or Luke and Leia wouldn't exist. So I understand what happened in this movie, but it was just fully CGI. I think it was the weakest out the prequels, and yeah, that's it really. But yeah, there was just too much CGI. I prefer the puppet version of Yoda rather than the CGI version of Yoda. Things like that. But the action was fantastic. But it's not one of those movies that I, want to watch all the time. It's not one of my top 10, but, it's not my top ones out of them, but yeah. So, let's get into the next one. Right, number 6 is The Phantom Menace. Now, the reason why I've got The Phantom Menace over Attack of the Clones is just that a way better lightsaber battle. The villain was a lot more interesting, but I can understand where people are coming from. It was a big letdown to people, but, you know, to me, I think it was an alright story. I prefer Hayden Christensen's version of Anakin rather than Jake Lloyd's. You know, Anakin, I can't deny, he was quite annoying in Attack of the Clones and also The Phantom Menace. But the lightsaber battles were absolutely fantastic, and also the music was fantastic. But it's just never been one of my favourites. It just hasn't been one of the best. It was very different from the other movies. Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson, they done great as the Jedi, Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and stuff like that, and I think it was very interesting and stuff like that. But it kind of slowed things down when they went to Tatooine and all that, and they found Anakin and stuff like that. And I can understand why people kind of contradicted several, I can understand why people were quite annoyed when they contradicted things like with the infamous midichlorian scene, when before it was about the Force was about the energy that binds the galaxy together. That's what the Force was about originally, but in the Phantom Menace it was about the midichlorian. So I can understand that it was quite annoying for people and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the actor's done a great job, but there was just too much CGI. It's just never been one of my favourites. But yeah, and Jar Jar Binks as well was really annoying. I never really liked him, but because the new Star Wars have made Rhea Mary Sue, I hate her even more. Right, number 5 is Rogue One. Now, Rogue One used to be my second favourite Star Wars movie until The Last Jedi and everything completely screwed up. And yeah, what was good about this movie is it felt like they actually remembered what happened in the previous movies, because in Force Awakens and The Last Jedi they completely forgot what happened in the previous movies, but in Rogue One they didn't do that. They shown Darth Vader still with his burnt body. We still seen him being without any of his limbs, like you see in Revenge of the Sith. They still see him on Mustafar. They still brought James Earl Jones back to voice him. He still acted the same way, and tied the loose ends between Revenge of the Sith. Well, not Revenge of the Sith, but like the moments before A New Hope. It made a lot more sense why the rebels were so desperate to get the Death Star plans away in A New Hope. But when it came to Rogue One, that was them getting the Death Star plans. But the thing is, by Rogue One, I didn't know that the actual Lucasfilm were pushing an agenda. They weren't. I didn't know they were going to push their feminist agenda and try and do everything, because that's what they did in Rogue One. They put another female lead just to push their agenda again. Now, I had nothing wrong with Jyn Erso, and it was great to me see Mads Mikkelsen in it. He played as Le Chiffre in Casino Royale, but he was Galen Erso. He was the one that put the fault inside the Death Star in the first place. He was the one that designed it. Krennic was an absolute fantastic villain. He done a great job. Ben Mendelsohn done a great job. But yeah, like, it was an alright movie and all that. Darth Vader was fantastic. The villain was absolutely fantastic. But the main characters, I just didn't care about them. But also another thing about the remembering the past with Star Wars, they also had Saw Gerrera that appeared in the Clone Wars. He also appeared in Rebels as well. But in the Clone Wars, he was on this Onderon arc with Anakin's apprentice Ahsoka, and they were all trying to defeat the droids on this planet Onderon. And yeah, Ahsoka was there to go and help, and Saw Gerrera accidentally ends up with his sister dead at the end because she fell from a tall height. but it was interesting to see him in Rogue One actually going and, you know, talking to Jyn Erso, because they had this whole group of rebels and she was part of it. But the good thing about her was, you know, she actually had a backstory, and also she had some training because she got trained, you know. She was a way better character, a lot more interesting than Rey is, and, you know, but I just wasn't a big fan of the entire group. I honestly didn't care about any of them, to be honest. Like, really, when I seen them all die, I was like, right, that makes sense. But when I watched the end credits, when the end scene with Rogue One and Darth Vader slaughters most of all the rebels and the rebels escape, it makes sense why in A New Hope he was like to Princess Leia, that is absolute rubbish what you're saying. Where he was like, you are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor, take her away. Why did he say that? Because he knew, because that ship that he chased after before at the end of Rogue One, he went into that ship later on and captured Princess Leia. Well, the stormtroopers captured her. But I'm just saying is that it made sense with Rogue One and went into A New Hope. It made sense why Darth Vader was so peed off and so annoyed. Why in A New Hope that it made sense. You know, it just made absolute sense with the movie. But yeah, this was the movie I really realised they were pushing their agenda. I still thought this used to be like my second favourite Star Wars until Disney went completely downhill with Star Wars. But yeah, it was a good movie, but I haven't watched it in ages. Now, number 4 is Return of the Jedi. Now, Return of the Jedi was a good movie. Had some interesting things about it, and it was great to see Luke Skywalker become the Jedi that he was meant to be. He looked so like his dad in that movie as well. I always like comparisons between Luke and Anakin as characters and how they look and all that. But Luke was just a good, badass superhero. Well, not superhero, but a Jedi in this movie. It was very interesting how at the beginning of the movie they were trying to go and rescue Han Solo, and, you know, after he was frozen in carbonite, and how they had a whole plan and how they were meant to be caught in the first place, and how Luke came in and saved the day, that went and rescued them all, and, you know, thanks to him himself with his skills and all that. And then after they tried to destroy the second Death Star, but it was a completely different way because they had to have this shield on Endor. And yeah, it was an alright movie, but I think the other movies, for the other, like the movies down the line, that the other movies had way more iconic and more better moments in them and more entertaining. I think it kind of slowed down the movie, just like this, like the story just slowed down a bit. The bit went in Endor and all that before Luke went and handed himself to his dad, which was Darth Vader, and he's try and turn him to the light and all that. The Emperor was absolute fantastic in that movie. Ian McDiarmid, he done a fantastic job at being the Emperor. It was just great to have it was a great finale and all that to the original trilogy and also the 6-film saga. And I just hate that The Force Awakens reset everything. But I think it was an absolute fantastic movie. The lightsaber battle was good, and also the action on the actual the Forest Moon of Endor was quite good as well, even though it was quite stupid that a bunch of Ewoks defeated the Empire, but they still lost people themselves. It was a shame, but I think it was still an alright movie. I think the actors done a great job. There's not really any flaws, but I just think the other movies were just a lot more interesting and a lot better, and I think they were a lot more entertaining, but things just slowed down a bit when it came to the Forest Moon of Endor. Right, at number 3, I have A New Hope. Now, A New Hope used to be absolute my favourite as a kid. I remember watching this as a kid. It was just such a classic movie at the time, and I'd say it's the Dr. No out of James Bond. When it comes to Star Wars, sorry. You know, I just think it was a lot more of an interesting story, and it just made a lot more sense with several things, like I was saying about Rogue One earlier on, and also Revenge of the Sith for that matter as well. And it made sense why Darth Vader hated Obi-Wan so much. By the time when it came to A New Hope, I understood and why and all that, and it was good. And Darth Vader James Earl Jones done a great job at voicing Darth Vader. It was a great story overall. I was surprised that Obi-Wan died, but it was good to have Luke try and be a Jedi, and you know, it was very interesting that he destroyed the Death Star by using his Force sense, and it was very interesting, and you know, I think it was a good story, but there was just two other movies that I just think are way better than actually this movie. But I do think it did slow down a bit on the Mos Eisley bit, but it was just a good, straightforward story. It's never slowed down. It was just very interesting story, and it's a way better version of The Force Awakens, I can assure you on that. And the special effects in this movie, even though it's like 42 years old now, is impressive. It really is. And that was absolutely amazing how they had. Yeah, I understand they have all those special edition things, and they have that whole thing about hand shot first and all that. But I'm not really bothered about all that stuff. I grew up with the special editions, so I don't. Well, I know the differences now since that YouTuber Marcelo Zuniga, I think he was called. But yeah, I've always liked A New Hope, and that's why it's my third favourite. And I do think that the A New Hope fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan was kind of boring compared to the Revenge of the Sith one, but I can understand. It was the first film that they were shooting, and I completely understand what they were doing, because it was really the first time they were starting to do it. And it was really interesting how all the characters met together and all that stuff. And it was just a way better story. There's more storytelling in the original trilogy than there is in any of the new ones. Now, Empire Strikes Back is one of my favourites. I think it's absolute fantastic. It is a great movie from start till finish. Maybe it's slowed down with the time of the Space Slug and also the training of Yoda, but I love Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back. He is so great. I love the puppet version of him. Wasn't keen on the CGI version of him. Just felt a bit fake for me. But the puppet version, I absolutely loved him. He was just great, so funny and very serious, and it was maybe rough with Luke, but it was just so funny when he was like, and he's like, oh, your father, powerful Jedi was, and Luke was like, oh, you don't know who my father is, you don't even know who I am, and I'm like, Luke, he knows who you are. Oh, I can assure you on that. But yeah, there was just such great moments, and again, the Han Solo with Leia romance was pointless in my opinion, because I hate Kylo Ren in the new series because he's a complete idiot. He's nothing like them at all. It feels like in Empire Strikes Back, it feels like the romance was absolute pointless compared to Anakin and Padme's from Attack of the Clones. It just made absolute no sense at all in this movie. But the action and all the stuff was fantastic. Like, the Battle of Hoth was amazing. And it was impressive how 1980 they were able to do all the shots for that. And, for the AT-ATs, which is the all-terrain armour transport walkers, the big ones on the snow planet of Hoth. It was amazing with the scenes and all that. It was absolute fantastic. The score for the movies were absolute fantastic as well. I love the Imperial March. The Imperial March is actually my favourite theme from Star Wars, actually. Darth Vader was an absolute bastard in this movie. I had absolutely no sympathy for him, but when I watched the entire series, I can sympathise with him then. But in Empire Strikes Back, it was a very good movie. It has been my favourite, like, when I was a kid, and I used to watch it all the time as a kid. It used to be my number one film until, my number one comes to the thing. But yeah, I really enjoyed Empire Strikes Back. There was just such great moments in it. It was very interesting, even like how Han Solo got frozen in carbonite and how everyone thought he was going to die, but really survived, and how like Boba Fett as well. He was just such a badass in that movie, um, and yeah, and you know, the special effects in this movie was fantastic, and I just can't deny this movie was absolutely fantastic. This is definitely got to be on at least number one or two on everyone's list with favourite Star Wars movies, because it was fantastic. It was an absolute brilliant movie. There's nothing really I can complain about it at all. There was just great same like the lightsaber fight between Darth Vader and Luke, and then revealing at the end that Darth Vader was his father. Was I was so surprised as a kid like that, but when I watched the entire series now, I'm like, yep, look, he is your dad, definitely. Um, and yeah, it's very interesting, the movie, and the cast was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Um, yeah, like I said, the special effects were absolutely fantastic, and it was a brilliant movie. There's nothing I can say but except that it's fantastic. The directing was fantastic in this movie. So yeah. Now, my favourite is Revenge of the Sith. Now, yes, I'm going to get a lot of hate, but why do I like Revenge of the Sith as my favourite? Because I think the lightsaber battles were absolute fantastic. And it was also a great transformation for Anakin to become Darth Vader. And actually, Darth Vader became Darth Vader when he turned to the dark side. Not when he got put in the suit, but when he turned to the dark side. But also, what I liked about this movie is that it was a bit like Rogue One. It tied all the loose ends for all the original trilogy. It's shown how Anakin turned to the dark side in the first place, and then also shown how he got burnt and lost all his limbs. Also shown how, like, because like in Return of the Jedi, we see Luke chop his dad's hand off. It explains in Revenge of the Sith why he had cybernetic hands, because he lost all of them in Revenge of the Sith. Now I can't deny there was some dialogue things that were stupid. The CGI has aged a bit, but the beginning of Revenge of the Sith was absolutely epic, and I'd say thanks to the Clone Wars series, Revenge of the Sith has become my favourite, because the friendship in the Clone Wars between Anakin and Obi-Wan just became stronger and stronger all the way through. And I understand why in Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan was so upset when he found out that Anakin became Darth Vader and was actually, he ended up slaughtering all the younglings and all the Jedi inside the Jedi Temple, and also slaughtered all the Separatist leaders on Mustafar and stuff. And I think I think it was really absolute brilliant. The lightsaber battles were absolutely fantastic and epic. It was great to see Darth Sidious and Yoda actually fight for once properly, and it actually even it's shown how the Emperor had his face all deformed, like it was in Return of the Jedi and all that. And yeah, it tied all the loose ends, and it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it was an absolute brilliant movie. I think as well that the acting was fantastic, and Hayden Christensen, he done a fantastic job in this movie. He done a fantastic job, and I don't know why people give him so much hate. I think, I'd say I'd rather meet him rather than meet all of the new Star Wars cast combined. And that's like, I mean, all the actors that play Rey and Finn and Rose and Kylo Ren, I would never want to meet any of them at all, because you know what, I'd say the prequel actors, they deserve respect. They deserve, their characters have done absolutely fantastic. Ewan McGregor done absolutely fantastic as well as Obi-Wan, and Ian McDiarmid as well done a fantastic job. And it's shown the whole thing, the whole transition between like with the Republic turning to the Empire and stuff, and it just made things a lot more interesting. It just tied all the loose ends in, and it was an absolute fantastic movie, and it just never slowed down at all in the movie. It just went like from one scene to another, and it never felt slow. I'd say it was the Casino Royale out of actually Star Wars, because like Casino Royale is the most fast paced and also my favourite out of James Bond. But Revenge of the Sith's the most fast paced movie and also my favourite from Star Wars out of the movies, because Revenge of the Sith was just so good and there was just so much that happened in the movie that there's just nothing you couldn't forget out of Revenge of the Sith. Same, you had the Order 66 moments, which explained why there was hardly any Jedi, and I really felt sorry for those Jedi that got killed. But thanks to the Clone Wars as well, I sympathised with the clones as well, because they had that chip inside their head that forced them to do it in the movie. But when I first watched Revenge of the Sith, I thought that they were all done it for fun, like they just shot down the Jedi and enjoyed doing it, but actually they didn't do that. They got forced to do it and they didn't have any choice. And I really liked Revenge of the Sith. There was such great moments, you know. And it's like when I see Anakin defeat Dooku in that movie, I'm like, thank God, because in the Clone Wars, he fought him about 7 times and struggled to fight like Count Dooku properly. And eventually in Revenge of the Sith, he finally kills him. And it was so good to see that happen. And yeah, it was good. I understand why he was very lonely in Revenge of the Sith, because Obi-Wan was an Utapau, and also Ahsoka was technically a Mandalore, but she left the Jedi Order. It makes sense why all those stuff happened, and it's great that Revenge of the Sith influenced me to have Revenge of the Sith as my favourite, because it was just such a great movie overall. So yeah, thanks for watching. Tell me your comments in the thing down at the bottom of the video. Yeah, people probably think that Revenge of the Sith shouldn't be number 1, but it's my favourite. Now, people can have a different opinion, okay? You can discuss at the comments bit down at the bottom. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. The next one.